You don't steal. You don't cheat. You don't backstab. You clock in before anyone else. You stay until the job is done. You cover for your colleagues when they're struggling. You volunteer when no one else raises their hand. You swallow your pride, smile through the frustration, and tell yourself that doing things the right way will eventually pay off. You've been patient for years, maybe decades, and still somehow, the person in the office above yours is someone who spends half the day in small talk, who never stays late, who takes credit for other people's ideas, who knows how to say the right things to the right people, but couldn't survive a week doing your actual job. So you ask yourself, am I doing something wrong? But maybe that's not the right question. Maybe the real question is, was I taught something false? From the moment you were old enough to understand, you were given a formula. Work hard, stay honest, be loyal, and the world will give back what you put in. Teachers taught it, parents believed it, employers repeated it, and you accepted it, not because you were foolish, but because it made sense. It was logical, it felt fair. But here is what no one told you. That formula was not designed to help you rise. It was designed to keep you useful. Friedrich Nietzsche, the 19th century German philosopher who dedicated his life to exposing the hidden forces behind human values, saw this clearly. He argued that the moral codes most people live by, the ones that praise sacrifice, obedience, patience, and suffering, were not born from wisdom or truth. They were built by those in power to manage those beneath them. Nietzsche called it slave morality, not as an insult, as a diagnosis, a system of beliefs that teaches the powerless to see their own weakness as a virtue, to call their inability to demand more humility, to frame their silence as loyalty, to repackage their exhaustion as dedication. Because if you believe that suffering is noble, you will never stop to ask why you're suffering in the first place. Let's look at the evidence hiding in plain sight. Think about the people who make the world physically function. The farmers, the factory workers, the nurses, the sanitation workers, the truck drivers, the teachers. Without them, civilization collapses in days, literally days. And yet most of them live close to the financial edge. Many work 2 jobs. Many can't afford the cost of getting sick. Many spend their careers building things they will never be able to afford themselves. Now think about the people who earn the most in our economy. Hedge fund managers, corporate executives, social media personalities, consultants, lobbyists. Ask yourself honestly, how much of the physical world does their labor actually build? The answer is almost none, and yet the money flows to them, not away from them. This is not a glitch. This is not an oversight. This is the system working exactly as intended. Because physical labor, no matter how skilled or essential, can be replaced. Machines can be built, workers can be outsourced, wages can be suppressed, but control over capital, over networks, over narratives, over perception, that cannot be automated away. The nurse can help 1 patient per hour. The fund manager can move $100 million with a single phone call. The system doesn't reward how hard you work. It rewards how much you control. And here is the cruel twist Nietzsche would have pointed to immediately. The people doing the most essential work have been convinced that their very sacrifice is what makes them good, that their struggle is evidence of their virtue. So they keep going, they keep showing up, and they never ask who benefits from their silence. If hard work doesn't reliably lead to prosperity, why do so many intelligent people still believe it does? The answer lies in psychology. There is a well-documented pattern in human thinking called the just world belief. The idea that the world is fundamentally fair, that good things happen to good people, that effort is eventually noticed and rewarded, that if you are suffering, there must be a reason, and if you just keep going, justice will arrive. It is a beautiful belief, and it is one of the most effective control mechanisms ever discovered. Because a person who believes the world is fair will not rebel against unfairness. They will blame themselves first. They will assume that if they are not being rewarded, they must not be working hard enough yet. And so they work harder, sacrifice more, give more, and wait longer. Meanwhile, someone else, who was never taught to wait, is learning an entirely different set of skills. How to build alliances, how to manage perceptions, how to negotiate, how to claim credit, how to leverage relationships, how to make the system serve them instead of consuming them. One person is playing by the rules they were given. The other is learning which rules actually matter. Nietzsche saw this dynamic as central to how power sustains itself across generations. The moral code handed to working people was never meant to be a map to the top. It was meant to be a ceiling disguised as a value system. You were taught that ambition is dangerous, that asking for too much is greedy, that the people at the top probably deserve to be there. All of it was designed so you wouldn't question the design itself. Nietzsche didn't just criticize slave morality, he contrasted it with what he called master morality. These are not moral judgments about who is a good or bad person. They are descriptions of two fundamentally different relationships with power and self-worth. Slave morality, the one most working people are raised with, defines goodness as patience, humility, self-sacrifice, and obedience. It sees ambition as dangerous. It treats suffering as proof of virtue. It waits for external validation. Master morality doesn't celebrate cruelty. It celebrates creative power. It defines worth from the inside out, not the outside in. It says, I determine what is valuable. I create. I build. I decide my direction. I don't need the system to tell me I'm enough. The difference isn't about being ruthless. It's about being the author of your own standards rather than the subject of someone else's. And here's what makes this painful to hear. Most people raised in working-class environments are actively discouraged from master morality. They are taught that wanting power is arrogant, that putting yourself first is selfish, that questioning authority is disloyal. So they give their best years to a system that was never designed to give back equally. Not because they are weak, but because they were never shown another way. The belief in fairness doesn't just limit your strategy, it limits your vision. When you believe the world is fair, you interpret your own stagnation as a personal failure. You think, if I was good enough, I would have been noticed by now. And that thought keeps you inside the very system that is holding you down, trying harder to prove yourself to people who benefit from never fully seeing you. Think about how often you've watched someone less capable move faster than you, and how often your first instinct was to assume they must have something you don't, some hidden talent, some quality you're missing. But what if the difference wasn't talent at all? What if it was simply that they understood something you hadn't been taught? That in environments driven by politics and perception, visibility matters more than output. That a confident mediocrity often outruns an invisible excellence. That is not a cynical statement. It is a structural one. The world does not have a mechanism that automatically detects and promotes the most deserving person. It has mechanisms for power, influence, and positioning, and those mechanisms reward the people who understand them. Nietzsche's warning was never that the world is evil. His warning was that most people sleepwalk through it, operating on inherited assumptions they have never questioned, believing in a fairness that was never built into the foundation. Waking up is uncomfortable, but staying asleep is far more expensive. Understanding that the system is not fair does not mean you have to become someone you're not. This is where many people go wrong when they first encounter these ideas. They think the only alternative to being exploited is becoming exploitative. They think rejecting slave morality means abandoning conscience. But that is not what Nietzsche was pointing toward. What he called the Übermensch, the person who overcomes, is not a villain. It is someone who has stopped outsourcing the definition of their worth to external systems. Someone who has decided to create value on their own terms, rather than waiting for the world to recognize the value they've already created. These are real people. You've seen them. The person who left a stable but soul-crushing job to build something they actually believed in. The artist who stopped waiting for industry permission and built an audience directly. The teacher who turned their expertise into a platform. The professional who learned that negotiation isn't aggression, it's self-respect. None of them became monsters. Most of them became more themselves. Because the path Nietzsche points to isn't about dominating others. It's about refusing to be dominated by a system that profits from your compliance. Here is what changing your approach actually looks like. It does not mean stop caring. It means stop mistaking obedience for virtue. It means learning to protect your energy the same way you protect your integrity. Saying no when something violates your interests, not just when it violates your ethics. Understanding that your time, your skills, your loyalty are not infinite resources to be consumed by whoever asks. It means learning how power actually works in the spaces you occupy. Who makes decisions, what they actually care about, what gets people noticed. Not to become a manipulator, but to stop being invisible. It means understanding leverage, that the best time to negotiate is before you've already given everything, that your value is not fixed at whatever someone first offered you, that advocating for yourself is not arrogance, it is basic self-respect. And it means being willing to walk away from situations that have already decided your ceiling. Because here is the truth. No amount of extra effort will change a system that wasn't designed to reward you. But repositioning yourself toward different environments, different relationships, different structures where your contribution is actually valued, that changes everything. You don't need to become ruthless. You need to become conscious. The goal is not to abandon your values. It is to carry them into situations where they can actually bear weight. Being kind is a strength. But being kind in a way that makes you easy to exploit is not virtue. It is a vulnerability that others will keep using. Being loyal is admirable, but loyalty given to institutions that feel no loyalty in return is not honor. It is a habit that needs examining. Working hard is meaningful, but working hard as a substitute for working strategically is not dedication. It is a way of staying busy while someone else writes the rules. Nietzsche was not telling you to stop being good. He was telling you to stop letting goodness be used as a leash. You can be someone of deep integrity and still demand fair compensation. You can care about your team and still protect your own interests. You can be honest and still understand the politics of the room you're sitting in. These are not contradictions. They are the marks of someone who has moved from innocence to maturity. You were handed a map. It said, be good, work hard, wait your turn, and the world will recognize your worth. That map was drawn by people who benefited from you following it. Nietzsche spent his career tearing maps like that apart, not to leave people lost, but to force them to look at the actual terrain, to see the world as it is, not as they were told it should be. The world as it is rewards ownership over labor, perception over effort, strategy over sacrifice, leverage over loyalty. You don't have to accept that this is how things should be, but you have to accept that this is how things are, if you want to change your position within it. Because the moment you stop waiting for fairness to arrive and start building your own terms, something shifts. You stop being a subject of the system and start becoming an author of your own direction. Not perfect, not overnight, but real. And that is what it means to wake up. If this challenged the way you see your own situation, subscribe. Every week, we go deeper into the ideas that explain why the world works the way it does and what you can actually do about it. Because philosophy isn't just for classrooms. It is a tool, and it's time you learned how to use it.